stone and onyx stone, because we come from what you call the onyx generation. The onyx generation serves the purpose of cleaning the shit up for the indigos, for the coming rainbow children. They coming to take Earth and turn it from a high school into a massive university of spiritual knowledge. There's no other place like it to learn how to control your God self than the struggles that come with Earth and Earth life. The problem came in when the ones who was entrusted to enforce the law was led astray by blood contracts. Because the blood contract is a standing contract, and it can only be broken at its fulfillment of what is being mentioned to do. So this is why the Constitution was written in the blood of Crispus Attucks, the first to die in the American Revolution, because you needed the first blood, right? Once they draw first blood, that's to put you on fucking notice that they coming for the motherfucking kingdom. You didn't pay attention. Our ancestors dropped the ball somewhere. Well, I had to go find out what they did. They inserted an artificial government, what they call an interim government. And then the interim government was only given a 13 square mile area to operate in called DC. But that was the corporation that was hired after George Washington betrayed the war contra. As a Masonic brother, he was a double agent between the English and the French. And he figured that once the Moors took off their fezzes and the Amuru took off their feathers, or as they say, as the elves take off their fezzes and the bays take off their feathers, they can blindside them and take everything from them, and they'll never know what the fuck happened. You ever see the fact checkers correct when I post the picture with George Washington where he said, if you take their fezzes and you take their feathers and let us treat them bad, etc., in 200 years, they will have no fucking clue who is who, and they won't be able to distinguish between each other. They never blocked that shit out on the fact checker, because that was the motherfucking contract. It had to be in public domain. It had to be accessible, in our face, behind our back. So I keep showing it over and over again. See, Tariq Bey damn near went fucking insane trying to tell you motherfuckers what's going on, and y'all won't fucking listen, incredulous ass, stubborn motherfucking stiff-necked mortals. You want to be a mortal so fucking bad you don't even understand that you got a higher propensity for intellect, art, entertainment, whatever you get into, because you're not part of this shit. You came here to use this shit, to keep this shit in order as the caretakers, the original motherfuckers, the original spirits of the earth, back in human form. Y'all knew we was coming. They knew this shit was gonna get cleaned up. They knew this shit can't go on forever. Cause I wouldn't give a fuck how bad this shit get. This many mothers can't keep praying and earth don't answer in one form or a motherfucking another. So this is the answer. So from here, I'm gonna go finish writing my post. But this is the update. This shit is a fucking wrap. Right? This shit finna get moving 100 miles an hour now. The Queens then went one-on-one with the Great One, and we didn't prevailed over this shit. Tit for tat, forth and back on a dragon dance. Off the left hand and the right hand from the straight bump. This shit motherfucking a rap. Now, For all of y'all that don't know y'all culture, your ancestors is never gonna leave this bitch where you don't have a remedy for the redemption of this motherfucker we call Earth. Whether you think it's flat, convex, concaved, domed, round, oval, lopsided, elongated, it don't fucking matter, cause y'all all right. As a creator, your perception will mold this motherfucking 3D reality into whichever one of these Earths you see. The planet's gonna line up however, as the God form, you say they supposed to line up. I said a while back I wasn't gonna address the... So, we get into agreements and soul contracts without knowing, because we wasn't woke, all the way woke. We wasn't really aware of what we were doing, so we got caught in a contract. So we need to know how to get under those contracts. Now those contracts or those agreements, blood rights, and soul contracts, they all have an exit. It's supposed to. If you got a tattoo, it should have a meaning, or you shouldn't have it. The soul contract can be broken amicably, which means no harsh side effect land on either side of the agreement. There's no consequence to breaking it if it's done amicably. Two people sit down and say, look, this wasn't working. And like in the case where all you have to do is exchange a drop of blood apiece. And I'm going to go through the ritual. I'm going to explain the ritual of severing the blood oath amicably. But before I get into that, there's another way to sever the blood oath non-amicably. Now, the person that's aware of the blood oath can do serious damage to the other person's entire life by breaking it one-sided because of whatever their grievance. Because anytime you break an oath, in order to break the oath, you have to vex the grievance unless it's an amicable severance of the agreement. So whatever grievance you vex is the punishment that that person incurs if it's truthful. So let's say that you had a blood oath, you had a piercing with a chick, y'all got married, then y'all got divorced, and you just realized that you was in the blood oath with her. So you can solo sever that blood oath and ruin her life. But let's say she was really a good chick and you just can't get in touch with her to break the oath. You can't break the oath without vexing the grievance one-sided. It has to be a two-sided severance of the agreement, or you have to vex a grievance. Now, if your grievance in which you severing the oath with is the absence, you can try to offer a talisman of protection to the other person because you don't know how to get in touch with them, and you would put that in your grievance. You know, so-and-so, most caring and loving, only grievance is the absence of the person in my presence, you know, and then you can sever it, then minimizing. This still going to get a side effect because it's a one-sided breaking of the contract or the oath. And so the contract is a little different than the oath, the blood oath, or the blood right oath. When you take a blood right, that is more binding than any other form of magic. When you use your blood in a ritual, and sometimes we don't even understand we performing an arcane ritual that tribal ancestors perform until we start waking up and we start to remember these things, and we be like, holy crap. And sometimes we don't wake up and remember, and we might run across it in a textbook or a research manual or something where somebody did research on a tribe that we was investigating because we thought we was linked to it, and find out we were, and that this was one of our practices, like marriage. You know, you got different marriage ceremonies around the world that do set up for different purposes. So when you get ready to sever a blood oath, the best way to do it is amicably, because it is the most harshly punished of all of the oaths. So um, that it should absolutely be severed amicably and in person between the two people. Because if you have a blood oath contract, it's the same as what was said in John Wick. The guy, De San Antonio, whatever, D'Antonio told John Wick that to make a blood oath is to bind a soul to a contract before God. It is an unbreakable oath. So when you decide to break a blood oath, it should be done amicably, or you can really ruin a person's life by a one-sided severance of that oath or that agreement that was made in blood. So the easiest one, like I say, to sever is a verbal contract made by a 3 times agreeing to something. You can sever that one one-sided and minimize the side effect to the other person. Some of y'all won't care, and y'all just sever the oath, and y'all don't care if the person's whole life is effed up. And some people might have done something to you where you feel they deserve that. That's up to you. But then there's some people that's going to have people that was good in their life, that life circumstances, they not together no more, where those people not in their lives, and they need to sever the oath in order to clear their spirit field, the auric field of the other person's binding influence. And so you have to perform a ritual of shedding of the blood. Blood in, blood out. It's the same thing the gangbangers tell you. Blood in, blood out. So if you did a blood ritual to enter it, you have to do a blood ritual to exit it. So in the case where a blood ritual was performed, and you may have at the time been unaware that you were signing the blood oath, and then you want to severance this blood oath with the other person, this is a process. Both people have to come together, and they have to sit down and vex their grievances to each other. And if they don't have grievances and they don't want to sever, one of them might not want to sever the oath. Or both of them might not want to sever the oath, but because they didn't never know it was in play to that magnitude. In which case, they won't vex grievances, they will vex agreements. And that's the exact opposite of a grievance. Like, instead of saying, I don't like the way you treated me, you ran out with the neighbor and slept with the dog, you would say something more to the contrary, like, you was good to me, you treated me fair when other people treated me unfair, and you'd run down the good things and you say, I want to uphold my portion of the oath. At this point, the other person has the option to allow you to uphold your portion as long as you release them from any obligation to upholding their portion. That's a one-sided release of a contract. But that's the same as you swearing allegiance to somebody's personal servant or slave, depending on what the blood oath was commemorating when you done it. So if both people don't have anything really negative or any grievance to vex, then they uphold those truths that they think is binding to the relationship, and they swear allegiance to the blood oath, and whatever it was, they would repeat it in order to strengthen the oath. So in the case of like a piercing, the piercing might have closed, they'll get the piercing reopened to what's up, Daniel? They'll get the piercing reopened to reaffirm. In the case where a tattoo might be faded, which may be a contributing factor to the deterioration of a blood oath relationship, and that's why you should use non-fading ink, tattoo ink, period. Because when they start to fade and they charge with certain energies, the energies become weaker. And if it was like a commemoration of a relationship, as it fades, so does the relationship. But it's still there. So what it does is pushes the relationship into the background because it's fading now. It's fading, but it can't go away because the blood oath signature is still present. And this is where you get that term years ago, signing it in blood. Because when you signed it in blood, then only God can break that contract before it's fulfilled, unless both people agree. Normally when God break that contract like that, he'll make you carry it out in another lifetime or in another galaxy or universe or however you want to say it. So once you get done vexing the grievance or the agreement, it depends on how you want to handle this blood oath. But in this case, we're talking about severing it. So we're not going to go into too much into the maintenance of the blood oath. The severing of the blood oath, you can take a little glass of water, about like a 4 6 ounce glass of water, and both people prick their finger to get a drop of blood like you're doing a diabetic test. A single drop of blood is all it takes. And when you put the single drop of blood in the water, you say, you know, with my blood I made this oath, with my blood I break this oath, and you put it in the water, and the other person do the same, and when you both have it in there, you take the water outside, which you probably should have been doing outside to begin with, but people do things in their own style, which makes it more effective anyway. But then you take it out to the ground. So now it's in the water, you know what I'm saying? The water is carrying the blood to the grounding of the earth. The earth is going to ground out the contract. It's going to sever the contract. And you can make your own rituals up along these lines. These are just guidelines. But in the case where you got the 2 drops in the water, and you already said, with my blood I make this oath, with my blood I break this oath. Remember, blood in, blood out. When you pour it on the ground, you ask Mother Earth, you know what I'm saying, to honor the severing of the oath by absorbing the water and the blood. And are pretty much done after that. If you can carry on to a ritual closing, or y'all can just turn and walk away and don't look back at each other once you sever the oath. And that's where y'all at. As far as the maintenance of it, there's no further obligation once the oath has been mutually severed. So when 2 people sever the oath, the blood oath, then that's it. You don't have anything to do unless you create it in your own mind. The bond will break. A lot of times we find ourselves attached to people that we can't stand and we can't figure out why. We've probably done some kind of blood oath or a pain rite, which is a lot of the times what domestic violence situations, continuous pain rites. And we looking at it from a 3-dimensional psychological standpoint, but we never looking at the spiritual implication of the domestic violence. It's also a pain rite. It's what them Catholic priests do to them kids by torturing them before they can get the adrenochrome. It's a pain rite. And so when they get their adrenochrome from the babies, exercising those pain rites, and they, you know, use all kind of torture techniques and to issue pain, but that's to keep the atmosphere's vibration low enough so they can stay here. But it ain't going to be able to be that low much longer because the people are beginning to wake up. And once they start severing these contracts, because it boils down to conserving your own energy. When you tie to a soul contract, somebody else is sharing your energy with you. And if you don't get that contract severed successfully, you will always be sharing your energy. You'll always have a leak. Something will always be amiss when you try to walk your path, and you're not going to know what it is because you got a soul contract drawn. Your energy is leaking. That's improper energy conservation, and you can't sustain a good forward progress being trapped in a soul contract situation. It'll always sabotage you in some way. Like if it's a guy who made a soul contract of fidelity to a female, every time he try to date, he's gonna suffer unrequited love. He can't escape it because he made an agreement. And that agreement was fidelity. But you can marry somebody and that not be part of the marriage. Every marriage is not monogamous, just like every marriage is not polygamous. You got different groups of people that have different characteristics and traits. Some people are supposed to be monogamous, some supposed to be celibate, and some supposed to be part of a polygamous situation. All of these are contingent upon the contracts made. The tribal clan you come from, you can check your totem. Your totem always come to you, but you probably don't pay it much attention. It comes to you in dreams, visions, pops up on the TV screen to check on you, and you never know what that was. So, I try to always give people the information that other people hide from them. And this is one of the things that they hide from us a lot, is the soul contracts and the severing of the soul contracts. The blood oaths and the severing of the blood oaths. They'll tell you how to make a pact, an agreement with the devil, but they won't tell you how to break it. They won't tell you how the devil didn't perform the contract as he said he was, that you can take his soul the same as he can take yours. They don't tell you none of that. You know, so I'm going to try to always give y'all something that ain't nobody else going to give y'all. And the breaking of the blood oath is the one that very few people know how to do. They know how to make them, make pacts and agreements and stuff like that, but they do not know how to sever a blood oath, either amicably or individually. But once you sever it individually, whoever the other person is, they had to have had an ample opportunity, or you had to do what they call due diligence in trying to contact them to sever the oath, and you have to state that intention to the universe, or God, or whatever you want to call it. But once you've done that, it's going to be a consequence for one-sided breaking of a blood oath, or a blood right. You can't do it one-sided without the other person suffering the consequence, especially since you have to vex the grievance. The best you can do to try to help them is to minimize it